The ability tree in Ori and the Blind Forest is a way to invest the experience you've gained as you level up. Not only does it make traversal easier, it can help you find things on the map or make Ori stronger in combat. So today, I'm going to be going over everything within the ability tree, along with some of my thoughts and personal experiences playing through the game multiple times across several difficulties. But before I do, I want to get into one very important thing. You can beat the game without unlocking any of it. There's even an achievement for doing so, just like Corvo's Mostly Flesh and Steel. But taking these will make the game easier in different ways, or possibly make it feel better. And if you're a completionist, don't worry, you can level up enough to obtain them all. The combat tree is highlighted in red. Combat abilities allow Ori to deal more damage, or deal damage in a wider radius. The efficiency tree in purple is mostly about pickups, map completion, and looting. Then the utility tree in green or cyan generally focuses on quality of life and traversal abilities, though there's a little bit of everything mixed in there. Now, as a quick note, if you want to know more about Ori's skills, I have a dedicated video on that, which you can watch after this. But for now, let's get into the ability tree in a little bit more detail so that you can make informed decisions when customizing your character. So first up, let's take a look at each of the ability trees. You can access these by pressing B on your controller. The first tree that I'm going to talk about is also my personal favorite. This tree focuses on giving you a bunch of utility and I guess I could say defensive, but they're mostly not really defensive so much as traversal effects. The first thing in this tree, which is denoted by the green or cyan, is Rekindle, allowing you to reuse soul links and shortening the cooldown timer. So what is a soul link? It's basically your save point. You press B, like so, you create it, the game is saved. Now you can also access your abilities here to level up. A really nice thing about reusing is you go, maybe you fight some enemies, you come back, you say, all right, I've made good progress. I unlocked a puzzle. I want to save here, but I don't want to use more energy because in the early game, your energy is fairly limited. So now you can come back and just hold this, rekindle, there you go. The second thing is regroup, which when creating a soul link restores a life cell. Again, this is about efficiency and I really like it because I tend to take quite a bit of damage. As much as I like these games, I'm not always the best at them. And if you get hit, trust me, enemies hit quite hard. Again, especially in the early game, this is an absolute lifesaver. Next, you have the Charge Flame efficiency. What this does is when you use your Charge Flame, this big explosion move, it costs half as much. If you're using that a lot, this is a must-have. Otherwise, it's not as important. It then leads to Air Dash, which comes into effect only after you've unlocked the base dash ability by going through the Blackroot Burrows, but basically you can dash in the air rather than simply dashing on the ground. Next we have Ultra Soul Link. Creating Soul Link restores 2 life cells, which means even more healing. Charge Dash, you can dash, and then hold left trigger to attack enemies. Think of it as a combat dash, and it is actually quite nice. I don't use it as much as I should, but hey, if you like it, then you like it. Just be careful of your positioning. You can sometimes get yourself into a slightly nasty spot by charge dashing through the wrong enemy. Next, we have Water Breath, allowing Ori to breathe underwater. There are a few underwater zones, but not too much, so I don't consider this to be too important. However, if you don't like dealing with the timers, absolutely go for it. Soul Link efficiency halves the cost of Soul Link. You're going to be using this a lot. This is effectively twice as many save points, which is really handy in the later portions of the game where you want to save frequently to not lose progress after going through a gauntlet or a particularly tricky traversal point. Then we have Triple Jump, allowing a third jump in the air. You absolutely do not need this to beat the game, but oh boy, does it feel nice. So the base jump is like this, and by holding A, you get longer jumps. Then there's Double Jump, which allows you to not only get further, but also jump higher. And then triple jump 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3. It's much better at horizontal distance than vertical distance. This is why I tend to max out this tree. The last point, Ultra Defense, reduces the damage Ori takes when getting hit by enemies. So, overall, I think this is a very strong tree, and it's the one that synergizes most heavily with my own personal playstyle. I'll take some early points in the others, but really focus on maxing this. More about that after I explain what the other 2 trees do, though. Next, we have the efficiency tree, which is in purple. This is all about kind of controlling the challenge of finding loot and also making defeating enemies a little bit more efficient because you won't miss drops from them. Speaking of, Spirit Magnet is the first one. Most pickups now float to Ori, so you get near them and they go directly towards you. I really like this because nothing feels worse than defeating a powerful foe, having them drop off a cliff, and having their loot get lost. If you're too far away, then Spirit Magnet won't pick it up. There's a solution to that, though. Next up, we have map markers. Most pickups show up on the map. This is great if you want to find these things more easily, especially if you're doing completionism. However, I can completely understand that for some people, they want to find this stuff for themselves, and so having it show on the minimap will ruin the experience. Just as an example, this is what it looks like. And if you're the sort of person that doesn't want to see that stuff very specifically in your game, just don't invest into that tree, and also maybe skip this entire section because it really is mostly more of that. Then we have life efficiency. Life pickups restore twice as much life, especially when playing on higher difficulties. I find this to be really, really, really nice. I kind of wish it had been before the map markers because I feel like map markers is a playstyle choice. However, it is what it is. Ultra Spirit Magnet, now your loot never escapes. You get to defeat monsters, and therefore, it's far more efficient. It also helps if you're trying to collect all the Spirit Light to level up even faster. Then we have energy efficiency. Energy pickups reward 50% more energy. Thus, you can make more save points, you can use Charge Flame, all that fun stuff. I do find this to be quite nice on higher difficulties and not nearly as important on lower difficulties. Because on lower difficulties, as I was progressing, I rarely screwed myself over with save points, whereas on higher difficulties, oh boy, it's tough. There are some gauntlets that I just do not want to repeat because Ori is just so darn squishy. Next, we have ability markers. This makes ability cells show up on the map. An ability cell gives you an ability point when collected. So an example of one is right here, that nice little ball of light. This upgrade, Spirit Efficiency, increases Spirit Light gained, thus more experience so you level up faster. Collecting ability cells is the fastest way to level up. Gaining some Spirit Light here and there definitely helps, and sometimes a full heal and energy restoration is absolutely amazing. But if it's not saving you, then I would focus on going for the bigger pickups that get you a full point every time. As we progress through life markers, this makes life cells show up on the map. So if you missed any of them or you just aren't sure where they are, here's an example. As you can see, I missed an entire area when I did the Forlorn Ruins. I really should go back and 100% that because I kind of want 100% every zone. Next, we have energy markers. Energy cells show up. You'll see at the bottom of my character, energy cells are on the left, life cells are on the right. The more you get, the tankier you are, and the more times you can save, the more energy you can utilize, all that fun stuff. This is what it looks like when it shows up on the map. And last up, you allow Ori to see through walls and find hidden areas. Which, to go back here, this is why. There's certain things like this that are super, super obvious. You can see the entire hidden area there. Again, I think this tree is very much a personal choice. For some people, they're just like, hey, I want to find all the things. For some people, they're like, no, I want to find it on my own. And if I can't find it, then I don't deserve to have it. I'm in the middle. I tried to find as many things as I could on my own. I got most zones to like 90-ish%. A couple below, I think my total game completion was 85%. Then I took all of these unlocks because I was like, all right, now I want 100% it. And I don't want to sit here for hours trying to figure out where the darn thing is that I missed. Some of them, like the one at the bottom right of a map, I guarantee you I would never have found that if there wasn't something on my map to tell me it was there. Last up, we have a combat tree, focused on enhancing Ori's ability to deal damage. You start off with Quick Flame, which is really nice because now you can shoot 3 flames before recharging. This definitely helps you engage in combat more easily, as after just firing a couple of flames, most enemies take a lot of damage. Of course, as you get later into the game, enemies become tankier, and I find other abilities outperform Spirit Flame. In the early game, though, I really like Quick Flame. And I also really like Spark Flame because this increases the damage. So, between these two upgrades, I find that Spirit Flame is set, especially in the early game portion, where I'm using it a lot. From here, things get a little bit more subjective depending on which abilities you personally value, or even if you choose to heavily focus on combat, because Ori has very high mobility and can often just avoid a lot of enemies entirely. Or, knock them into the nearest pile of spikes, which will kill them instantly. So, Charge Flame Burn improves the radius and damage of Charge Flame. Just so you know, this is Spirit Flame, and this big explosion is Charge Flame. Charge Flame hits quite hard, and it can be used to destroy certain things. I'm not a big Charge Flame enjoyer, mostly because of a charge time. I'd much rather use other things. However, I could absolutely see why you might want to just cause a big old explosion and nuke everything on screen. And we have Split Flame, allowing the Spirit Flame to damage 2 targets at once. If you're really using Spirit Flame a lot, not swapping to other abilities later, definitely invest into this, because there's often times when enemies on the left and enemies on the right, and if you split damage between them instead of damaging both, it's a lot less efficient. Then we have Ultra Light Burst. This increases the strength and radius of the Light Burst ability. You do need to unlock Light Burst, but if you have it, then it's quite nice. This is Light Burst. You get it in the Blackroot Burrows area. And you can see it throws a little projectile. It gives Ori some range damage, then it explodes. Next up, we have Cinder Flame. Further increases the strength of Spirit Flame. If you're still using it, absolutely take this, and this is much more of a mid-game talent. Again, I'm pretty sure you can use it straight into the end game. I just tend to swap to other things, which is encouraged by the next couple of talents. So we have Ultra Stomp, increases the damage and radius of Stomp. Yeah, why target enemies with Spirit Flame when you could just stomp them out? This thing hits really hard. It's super, super nice to use, that satisfying thump every time you hit the ground, and it deals AoE damage. Oh, plus it knocks back a lot of enemy projectiles, making certain foes which would otherwise be very dangerous absolutely trivial. Because I'm a Stomp enjoyer, that's why I don't use Spirit Flame as much in the later part of the game. Rapid Spirit Flame, yep, you can use it more. Then you have Charge Flame Burst, enhances the radius and attack damage of Charge Flame. That's why mine is such that big, burst of light that destroys everything within its radius, sort of. It hits quite hard, but honestly, not that much harder than Ultra Stomp, which is why I tend to just spam Ultra Stomp. And last up, Ultra Split Flame. You can target 4 enemies at once. The damage increase is quite good. The targeting for is very situational. In general, Ori is not the sort of game that throws tons of enemies at you, so you're much more likely to have 1 or 2 enemies on your screen than 3 or 4. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, I'm just saying it's not super frequent. So now that I've gone over all of that, I'm going to talk about how I tend to build out Ori throughout my playthroughs. Before I do though, if you've enjoyed the video so far, maybe found it helpful, and want to see more content from me, do be sure to get subscribed, leave a like while you're down there. I talk about a wide variety of games, and I do have a soft spot for indie platformers and Metroidvanias, so if you like Ori and the Blind Forest, you're probably going to see something else you enjoy in my content in the future. Hey, if you need to convince a friend to pick up Ori and the Blind Forest, well, I have a review where I talk about why it's my favorite platformer and why I think everyone should play it. So here's an example where I'm roughly halfway through the game. I've unlocked a good few abilities, but I definitely don't have everything. Also, because I'm playing on hard here, I haven't gone through as much and collected the optional things, simply because the progress is much slower and the enemies are much more dangerous. So the first thing that I did was unlock Spirit Magnet. After that, I put a couple points into Quick Flame and Spark Flame. That way my Spirit Flame feels much stronger in the early game. Then I rushed all of these, because I really, really, really wanted the extra efficiency when it came to using Soul Links. Generating a Soul Link and having it give me 2 life cells is really, really, really nice. Now from here, there's 2 paths that I could take. One, I could go over here to get Ultra Stomp. This is going to take quite a bit of time because each of these upgrades costs 3 ability points. So 3, 6, 9 more, and I get what I want. Alternatively, and the route I think I'm going to go is actually here in the efficiency tree. Because this is 2, 4, and with a life efficiency, getting more life pickups, really, really, really strong. I'm definitely feeling like my life is constantly in jeopardy. Ultra Spirit Magnet, I don't lose EXP, so I progress faster. Energy efficiency, it's all really good. And then I'll probably give these a pass. So in total, 2, 4, I believe it's 6, 9. So same amount of points here, but instead of enhancing my combat ability, I'm enhancing my ability to deal with the puzzles and survive the fact that I hit spikes and sometimes don't get instantly killed. After that, I will go into Ultra Stomp, rounding out my combat abilities, before coming back here in the utility tree and probably fully maxing it out. When playing through on normal difficulty, Ultra Defense didn't seem super impactful, but on hard, oh boy, is it going to be big in the later parts of the game when things really start to ramp up the damage. Then for the remaining trees, I'll probably just do them as I get extra points, so starting with combat and then going into efficiency, because I've played through before, I kind of know where a lot of things are, so I don't value these as much. That said, I feel like the skill tree choices are highly subjective, at least outside of the very first ones being really easy to pick up and get a lot of value from. Like Rekindle reusing Soul Links, that's super high value, I'd always recommend it. Spirit Magnet, pickups floating to Ori, I'd always recommend it. And I do think these are quite nice in the early game. But after that, it depends on you. Do you want to enhance your traversal ability? Go into the utility tree. Do you want to farm stuff and explore as much as possible, but you want to know where you're going so you don't feel like you're wasting time? Go into the efficiency tree. Do you like fighting and not using hazards to, say, knock enemies into spike traps? Well, max out that combat tree as soon as possible, especially if you're a Spirit Flame or Charge Flame enjoyer. But ultimately, because this is subjective, I'm curious. If you're playing through Ori, what do you max out? Let me know down in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing some of your builds. And so that's the basics of how the ability tree functions in Ori and the Blind Forest, what each of the branches do, and roughly how I tend to customize them in my various playthroughs. Remember, if you're looking for something else to watch after this, there is a companion video that goes over all of Ori's skills, where you obtain them, generally how you use them to traverse the world and in combat, along with some of my favorite applications personally. You'll find a lot of things line up, where if I talked about using Stomp in this and enhancing it, well, I'm going to talk about using Stomp and enhancing it in that video as well. Links to that will be up in the card and down below. Now also, before I go, I want to take a minute to thank my patrons and channel members for the continued support. For as low as $1 a month, you can help make videos just like this one possible, to allow me to talk about some of my favorite games and hopefully help you enjoy them a little bit more as well. Link to support is also down below. Also, thank you to everyone who watched to the end. I'm glad you enjoyed the video, hopefully you learned something about ability trees in Ori and the Blind Forest, and I'll be sure to see you in the next one.